Hey guys, welcome to week two. I just wanted to do a little summary wrap up of what we did in week one and where we're headed. And hopefully, the readings haven't been too bad for you. Sometimes that book might be a little challenging in parts. And in my short lecture for this week, I try to look at uh, the topics when I read them as either the author's referring to tacit knowledge or explicit knowledge. So hopefully, um, you will probably be able to do the same thing or something along those lines that make it a little bit easier for you to make sure that you understand clearly what he's referring to. Because he does use different names. And let me just grab my book here real quick just so I can give you an example before I get too far off into this. For example, in chapter 2, he talks about the objectivist perspective on knowledge, while here he's referring to explicit knowledge. In other words, that knowledge that the organization possesses, which is used in the form of some type of codified format, which is rules and regulations, policies and procedures, and so forth. So, as you're reading through this stuff, just try to put it in that perspective. Also, try to put it in a context of maybe your occupation or profession that you're currently involved in. So when I read through this material, I put in the context of law enforcement and try to apply what he's saying in terms of how it might apply to law enforcement, and then I think I have a better understanding of what it is. So, if you have any questions or issues as you're reading through the textbook, please let me know. But otherwise, it'll all make sense as we get further down into this a little bit. And so I just wanted to highlight again, last week what we did is key thing was introduction. So if you haven't introduced yourself, please do so, because I think it's important that we all understand who we are and where we're coming from and what your background is, because some of you are in a background where this idea of knowledge management systems or information management is an everyday thing. And so you probably have some good ideas that you can share with your classmates. So make sure you do that. And then our journal assignment this past week in week one was you were externalizing tacit knowledge that you possess. In other words, you're trying to figure out what information you have up here and how can you put it on a piece of paper in some type of codified form and make it more explicit knowledge. So the whole theme last week was basically getting an understanding of the two basic types of knowledge: tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. So I'll be reading your journal assignments this week. Outside of that, everyone's off to a great start, and I do appreciate everyone's work. So next week, we're going to be getting into exactly what is knowledge management and discuss briefly knowledge management systems. So I have posted a short lecture. There are two short lectures actually next week. I ran out of time in the first one. So altogether, it's probably about 25 minutes long. Hopefully you'll find time to listen to it. I started talking about knowledge management systems. And another word for knowledge management systems is simply information systems or information management. Whatever you want to call it at work, our textbook refers to it as knowledge management. In other words, the ability of an organization to oversee, organize, and manage its knowledge that it possesses and that of the employees, and how managing and understanding that knowledge and applying a set of infrastructure, if you will, either hard drives or software, allows the organization to better share knowledge with all those that comprise the organization. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week, or actually this coming up week, which is week two. So we're going to be looking at what is knowledge management. There's a couple of videos to watch. One of them is with San Diego Sheriff's Department and how information management is used at that organization and why it's important. And then for your Journal 2 exercise this week, you're going to be looking at how does knowledge management or information management apply to law enforcement? So basically, taking kind of some of the concepts we learned in chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, how does it apply to law enforcement? All right. And so, like I said, what I do when I read the book, because this is the first time I've used this book teaching this class, I make notes on the side of my text and apply it to law enforcement, how what the author is referring to can apply to policing and law enforcement management. That's what I do when I'm reading through here. So you can do the same thing, or again, apply it to your workplace somehow to give it a context that you're more familiar with. One of the things we have been looking at this week is managing informal groups within an organization, and how do you capture that group activity, because groups tend to share that tacit knowledge with each other, things that work, things that don't work. So whether it's hanging around the coffee cooler or in the break room, employees start talking about different things and different projects that they're working. And so this week it poses a question as to whether or not this is a good thing, this is a bad thing, or how can an organization tap into that process where employees get together and share knowledge and share information. Some organizations might have electronic bulletin boards where people go in and type in and share ideas. Maybe they are dealing with a situation, want to find out if anybody has to deal with that same type of situation earlier, and whether or not they learned a method that would help them find a way to solve that problem in a much quicker fashion. So it's really taking the time to evaluate how can an organization tap into that, because there's a lot that goes on within that small group environment where knowledge is shared, and we need to figure out how to tap into that, right? Into police work, to me, that informal small group setting is in the briefing room, where guys are talking about stuff that happened the night before, or things that they learned about, or things that are happening today. They're sharing information on people that they're interested for a particular offense, a crime, and they're talking to their colleagues. So how do we tap into that? How do we access some of that knowledge? Because a lot of these street cops have a lot of information, and it's all up here, okay? And so as an organization, we need to figure out how to tap into that. So part of your assignment this week is looking at how an organization can best handle that informal group environment to maintain that free flow of ideas that take place within an organization. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to be dealing with this week. So don't forget, this is a reminder, our discussion boards are due, your initial thread is due by Thursdays, end of day Thursday. And I have that in there because I want to make sure that people, your classmates, have enough time to read all the postings and then formulate a response to at least one of those. And I think it's important that we have time to look through all of them and get an idea as to where everyone's coming from, and then formulate a response. So I think that's key. Okay. So anyhow, hang in there. I know sometimes it might be a little confusing exactly where this class is going, but basically what we're going to look at is the importance of knowledge management, both in the tacit and explicit form, how an organization can use both of those types of knowledge, how the organization can create a knowledge management system or an information system to best suit the organization and what the organizational needs are, and make sure that employees who need specific type of information can get access to that information. So that's sort of where we're going. But again, last week was pretty soft start. I appreciate everyone's diligence and hard work. I really do. Again, I think we're off to a great start. And if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't already done the introduction, make sure you do that and start getting things wrapped up as we move into week number 2. Other than that, as you can see, I'm wearing my Giants garb. We lost today 20-15, but after all, it is week 1. So every Monday, I'll try to post a summary wrap up. So just sort of discuss where we've been, where we're going, that type of stuff, and usually keep it around 7-8 minutes. All right. If you ever have any questions about the course content or material, never hesitate to contact me. You may have to read a couple sections again more than once. I have. So, if you ever have any questions or you're not quite sure what the heck's going on, send me a note, and I'll try to clarify it either in one of these little weekly postings or in my short lecture. Okay. Outside of that, have a blessed week, everybody. And again, if you ever need anything, let me know. You can call, email, or text anytime. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, and have a good week.